Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I really appreciate the PTSA for our being able to continue in this forum and have some time together. As always, I have my coffee. I don't know. Oh, it's right here. And we have a little bit of time this morning. If you don't mind, we have about 27 participants. So if you would love to, if you would put your, maybe your student, your child's grade level in the chat and tell us, you know, how the year's going so far, just so I can kind of get a gauge of how things are going with you and joining us this morning. And if you want to, you know, put on your camera, I'd love to see your beautiful faces as well. So whatever works for you. I do want to introduce Brad Rohner. Oh, there you are, all those great faces. Thank you so much. I do want to introduce Brad Rohner. He's on the call. He is our principal intern and working with me closely this year, and will actually take over the building. I think it's in December and January. He will be here and I will go elsewhere for a little bit. Yeah, Miss Laudeman forgot what grade her child is in. It happens. Anyway, but there's Mr. Rohner. Mr. Rohner, did you want to say hello this morning?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties. Great to see everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here for the first time.
Awesome. Thank you. And as I said, I always thank the PTSA for coordinating this, and Nikki is amazing all the time. So a special thank you to Nikki for this morning, for getting us started and settled. We have the coffee every Friday following the PTSA meeting. I usually receive the questions in advance, and I'll answer those questions. But of course, throughout the morning, if you are throughout our hour together or so, if you have any questions, then just feel free to unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat and we'll get them either one. This was just another attempt to open up communication, see what it is happening on your side and how things are going here at Wooten from your perspective. We know your little darlings come home and tell you some things, and sometimes we get a good sense of, you know, where there are areas that we can work together and to improve, where areas are going really well, and just to keep in touch. That's really the purpose of our time together. So with all of our, we have a wide variety of grade levels represented this morning. Thank you so much for putting that in the chat for us. And I think we'll begin. I have really just a couple questions that came in, and okay, and then we will move forward. So the first one is about phones, and it says, my son is using his phone a lot during school. He says several of his teachers allow students to go on their phones once assignments or map testing is complete. And the question is, what is the phone policy, and is there something we can do about in terms of that? Essentially, where we are with phones, students are allowed to have their phones in school. They're able to keep them on them at all times, and each teacher sets the phone policy within the classroom. We do that for a number of reasons. One of them is that our children are digital natives, and this is you know, part of their this is just part of how they receive information, and we have to acknowledge that. Our goal really is to help students understand how to use the phone responsibly, how to be able to and when it is appropriate for them to use it in classes, the teacher allows them to do so. There's, you know, a number of reasons why they do this, but we do support the teachers in terms of the phone policy in class. If we're having an issue, and it sounds like there was hi, Dr. Kramer, there seems to be a particular issue in a class regarding the phone use, and I will follow up on that particular issue because I agree with you that it should not be used in that way. So I apologize for that. However, I do know a lot of the teachers are putting in policies where students are not permitted to have their phones out. They're not permitted to use the phones during class, or if they're using them, it is because they're working on a project, or if they legitimately have some downtime, like in our advisory period. What you described, I think, is inappropriate, and we'll follow up, like I said. But in terms of phones in general, we also have, sometimes when we notice that a student is struggling and relying on the phone too much, we make agreements with students here. For us, it usually becomes an administrative level where the teacher has asked the student not to use the phone. The student is pulling it out and not really adhering to the policy there. And we'll get involved and we'll take the phone for the day or something like that. If there is a concern about the phone in general, by all means, feel free to, either take the phone yourself and say, not during the day. I have a number of parents who turn off the, connectivity during the day. That's also another strategy. But in terms of school policy, I think we're all getting a little tired of the phone sometimes. So I can guarantee that, we try to really promote the appropriate use of phones when they should be so. And like I said, the example you gave in your question was inappropriate, and we'll take that back to the teacher in the department.
So thank you. I like all of the words that you're saying. They definitely resonate. I would make two comments. One, I think every teacher sees their own class, but when you accumulate over the course of a day, if each teacher is doing 10 minutes, it's just 10 minutes, by the end of the day, it's an hour plus. And so I don't think, an hour of valuable education time spent doing whatever they do on their phones that is not valuable education. I just think there, and so my other thing was part of their education. What I'm trying to do, and I'm failing, is, open the Washington Post app, open CNN, do something that's not the gaming. And I can't get my kid, I'm trying. And I don't want to just shut it down because I know this is not unique to my child. So how can we provide alternatives when they have that little bit of downtime that's not just like do a pinball game on your phone?
No, I like that a lot. Yeah, I like that. I think we can do some work through our advisory and to help out with how we can use the phone. I think some great reminders of that is necessary. And I will also, so I'm kind of writing a note there too about how we can, kind of connect the phone to more productive, more useful, if
Yes.
using it. I gotcha.
Yeah, I need backup because I'm messaging at home, but I need the backup there. Yes.
We all need backup. These teenagers, we have to work together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
and my kid sees me on my phone all the time, but I'm reading CNN. I want to know what's going on. So I'm just, so thanks.
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Yeah, I think we can follow up on that. And then the other piece that we've not done yet, but is upcoming, is to talk about our, administrative chats with students. We talk about responsible use of cell phones in general, and how we're using our time and what we're engaged in. So I totally understand.
Which is why I don't want to hardcore shut it down. Like I agree with the comments in the chat. I don't want to just shut it down. I need him to learn to use it.
Exactly. This is their world, right?
This is their time. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Really appreciate it. The second question, we're totally flipping gears here, and it's a COVID question. Yay! But the question is about how many, can we get information on the positive cases? You are getting a significant number of emails, and there's some questions in here about how were they exposed? Are the students vaccinated? I'll say upfront that those are confidential kinds of issues that I cannot reveal in terms of that. I can say this though, we've had 8 positive cases overall. The contact tracing is significant, that goes along with that. And so if you think about, so if we have a positive case, we're aware of a positive case, we have a very strict protocol of making sure that we are working with our health department and our school nurse who represents that on staff, and also following the protocols in terms of contact tracing, what is considered close contact in terms of, masks on, masks off, certain distance apart. We've put some measures and protocols in place for all of our teachers to have seating charts, and also to have sign-in sheets and spaces that are not in the classrooms. So for extracurriculars during lunch. So we have a pretty, I would say, robust program to make sure that when we have a positive case, we're able to go back and to see who our children were in contact, who would be defined as a close contact. That is where we're making a lot of calls, because of, once you think about that piece, right? So we have a person, an individual who tests positive, and if they're a senior and they're riding together in the cars coming to work, or coming to school rather, or if they're together at lunch, they're in their classrooms. And so then we follow up. And I will say this, the response from our children and from our parents when we're making these calls, it has been so incredibly helpful, so incredibly collaborative, so that we can make sure that we're doing our due diligence and doing our close contacts and all of that. Yes, I agree in terms of that statistic. But, and again, I understand it's a high level of concern. We are implementing and making sure that we're doing the best we can and following the protocols in terms of mask wearing, in terms of social distancing, those spaces like lunch that are a little trickier. Every chance we get, we're opening up all the spaces we can, including our outdoor spaces. I would say that our children have been very responsible. They've been very responsible in wearing masks and doing what they need to do. And so, we're just really trying our best to, keep school open and keep kids safe, while also being proactive and responsive to, the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're trying to work ourselves through it. And so I think that, and hats off to my administrative team and our nursing staff, because I think we've developed a protocol. So yes, it is very, I would say, alarming and concerning to receive the notifications regarding, student or individuals who've tested positive, but certainly we're doing the best we can to make sure that that information is getting out and that we understand who's been contacted. So that's what I can tell you at this moment, and then we go through a level of questioning just to determine if, once we find out that they're a close contact, if they need to quarantine, if they need to if any of those things that are happening. Any other questions about COVID?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Okay, good. Nice to, I'm actually working or not. I guess my question is, if a child at Wooten tests positive and they have to quarantine, and they have siblings at Frost or Cabin John or whatever, or siblings at the feeder elementary schools, do those children also have to quarantine? I mean, the whole family has now kind of been exposed, isn't that correct?
So it depends, and Mr. Rohner, jump in with me here, because we just had a case like this. Not necessarily. So, if the close contact, first, it depends on if the student is vaccinated or not, if they, if they're symptomatic or not. And we're identifying the close contact, but there may not be a direct positive case in the household that we're responding to. Mr. Rohner, do you want to add on to that? Because I think
Yeah, that's correct. So what we're talking about, if someone's exposed to someone has COVID and they're close contact, it definitely depends on what they're vaccinated or not vaccinated. So in a case of they're vaccinated, then the sibling of that close contact would not have to quarantine they would just be advised to monitor. But it's all about who's the close contact of the person who tests positive is where it goes.
But don't
to.
you have, but aren't there people testing positive who are vaccinated? So this is what I'm trying to understand. Like, you can still get it even if you're vaccinated, right? So if person A tests positive and they're close contact with person B, and person B has siblings, even if whether person B is vaccinated or not, I'm just trying to understand why that matters, because person B could still get it, isn't that correct? And still transmit it.
But it depends if they're vaccinating themselves, because the rules with close contacts are if you're vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine, you just have to monitor, and then CDC recommends you go get tested 3 to 5 days. Does that help?
Okay.
Just to clarify, these vaccines.
It helps, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, these vaccines were not designed to prevent infection. They don't induce B-cell immunity. These vaccines are designed to reduce, severe disease and death. So you will have, and since most of our community is vaccinated in Montgomery County, you will hear about lots of breakthrough infections with vaccinated people. But the key thing is that they don't go on to have serious disease or die from it.
They don't, but if they have a sibling who is not vaccinated and they're transmitting it, then that person could.
Right, but the transmission efficiency is much lower among vaccinated people. So it's still not the same.
And can I mention something as a physician about that?
Please.
Sorry, I should have added, I'm an infectious disease epidemiologist. I should have said my background as well.
Yes, thank you. I'm very glad you're here.
Yeah, as a physician, it's very important to understand the difference between, infection rate, infections, and morbidity and mortality. So I'm just piggybacking on the last comment to say that we have the coronavirus is endemic. It's probably never going to go away. So the goal is to make sure that people don't get very sick and die. So if you are vaccinated and you're an adult or, a high school kid, if you get COVID, I work at 7 hospitals. There's been 0 people all across from Shady Grove, Holy Cross, up to St. Agnes in Baltimore, 0 people in the ICU that have been vaccinated. So in terms of the risk to young children getting seriously ill with no underlying conditions is remote. So before the pandemic happened, people got sick, people actually died, and children went to the hospital with RSV and other things and died. It's not common. So I think that the common goal is to keep children. We can't have kids missing school just in case. We can't have the disparity continuing with the children who are from socioeconomic disadvantaged homes are getting further and further behind. We can't have this happen just to make people, let's just say, comfortable when it doesn't concur with science. The science says everybody should get vaccinated. That's the most important thing for preventing death and dying. This isn't going to go away. In 3-4 years, we'll probably be getting our little boosters every year. So I think we're doing a good job. And not everybody's going to be happy, but this makes the most sense of what the current policy is.
I totally agree.
Thank you, Dr. Glazer and Dr. Kramer. We have a PTSA meeting in October. We may ask you to come be panelists. A little plug there for if you're interested. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's always great to have our community involved. Dr. Glazer, did you have another question or were you responding?
I do have a question about COVID. And my question is, what is school doing to ensure when sick kids come to school that they are identified and are asked to go for a rapid test? Because I'm hearing cases when sometimes kids, when they sneeze in the class, they take their mask off, and sneezing mask is off, the teacher is there seeing it. So what is school doing to ensure that sick kids are, not that they are referred for a test or that they are asked to sit separate at the back of the class or something? What is the school doing?
So the school is enforcing our masking. The school is enforcing our social distancing. The school is enforcing, and we need everyone's help, of course, if your child is sick, to stay home. I will say on the other side of that, we're all going to sneeze. We're all going to, have a cough or maybe a tickle in our throat. And what makes it so challenging is that, symptomatic of something larger, or is it just a sneeze? And so we really do need to make sure that, that they're able to take care of that need, wash their hands after they sneeze, and, and wipe their nose and all of that kind of thing. If we are concerned that a student is showing symptoms, then we have a triage room that's separate from our nurse's office, so that we can provide a rapid test for those students who are showing positive, symptoms in school. However, I think it's a group effort in terms of, if our teachers are seeing, or we're seeing that a student is unwell, then we're going to do our due diligence to have them assessed, and if they're ever if they need to leave school, or if they, or if it was just a sneeze. It's challenging, but we do have protocols in place, and we're enforcing the protocols to ensure that, if there is a sick student, that they're not staying in the classroom setting at that point, and that we're going to our nurse. And then if they need to, come out of school for that day, or for a period of time, then that is what's occurring.
Thank you so much. It's just that, as parents, we get very stressed when we hear cases wherein the student is almost sneezing for the whole class, and with the mask off, and all the students in the class are in danger, and the teacher is there observing it, not doing anything about it. Or when we see sick kids coming to the school, and they're sitting around everybody else, and then next you see a letter coming, so it just stresses the parents. And that's the reason I asked this question. And what is the school doing to ensure that everybody is safe?
I understand there's a high degree of stress right now in terms of the safety of our children and all of our safety, and being back in communities. And I think that if there is something specific that you hear about, or that your child reports to you, please let us know in the moment that is occurring, so that we can address it. And that is something that's what we also need too, right? So that we can understand what's happening and what was the dynamic that was occurring. And so, and if we need to, again, work with our staff, and our staff has been fabulous, but if we want to work with our staff again about if a student is sneezing and they need to go out into the hall for a moment just to collect themselves and making an assessment, our teachers are doing that. But if there's something specific, please let us know, so that we can address and that particular area of concern.
And ma'am, what the parent talking to parent, what are you concerned about if your child would get sick? Tell me what your fear is.
It's just that the fear is that when the student is continuously, it's a 40-minute class, and when the student is continuously sneezing, and we know that the student is sick, and just the symptoms that is physically shown, and if the child is just sitting in front of the sick child, and the mask is off, and they are sneezing continuously for 40 minutes, how
old is your child?
My child is 17.
Has your child been vaccinated?
Yes.
Okay, so getting back, we have to balance making sure kids are social, emotionally healthy, making sure they get their education, trying to keep the schools safe. So I think what our principal is saying is that they have protocols in place, and I don't think that they're purposely going to ignore stuff. If something happens like that, I'm sure that the instructions are that they need to see what's going on. But as also people are going to sneeze or cough, and you have to think about what is the risk of a vaccinated teenager getting very sick, which is extremely minimal. Most of the time it's asymptomatic. The kids don't even know they're sick, versus having children continue to fall behind with education, continue to have social emotional problems. So they have a difficult job. So I respect how difficult it is for them. So I just think that you need to think about your concerns and just balance it with the concerns of the educators, the other parents, and with the children, because ultimately it's trying to have our children have a positive experience, and they've already gone through a really difficult time. So we're doing everything we can to help.
True, I understand. It's just that the kids could have siblings who are unvaccinated. There could be high risk parents at home.
This
all
is my
different
point.
kinds of scenarios could.
I think here's where I would say we are trying really hard to put the policies or implement the procedures that we know that will help keep our whole community safe. And at the same time, as Dr. Glazer said, we're trying to also balance the social emotional. And so we're making sure that we're not overreacting to, for example, when a student sneezes, because that everyone is on edge. And so there's a social emotional component here as well. But certainly if there is something that your child came home and told you about at night, then clearly there's that your child is feeling, something happened that we need to be made aware of, and to make sure that we're directing it specifically if there was something that happened in the classroom that we're not aware of. And so, these are challenging times for sure. And we are all, trying to navigate waters that I haven't navigated, and most of us haven't navigated before. And so again, I think it's just going to take us all to really understand globally what is happening and what we're doing to accomplish our, mission of having our kids back, and what are we doing specifically that we may need to, do a little bit better or different to make sure that that's happening. And again, like I said, if there's something specific, let us know. We'll address it for sure. But there are times that unique things happen, and we just need to come back in and make sure that, everything is in line the way that it ought to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's just the message that if the teachers can implement the mask, if in the class, that they wear the mask all the time. That's all. That was the reason for this question. That's
right.
If that's the case, then everybody will be safe.
That is the case. However, if you're hearing that something is not going well or not being implemented in class, let us know. Let us know.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I see a hand up, Miss August.
Well, I was just going to validate the previous callers, and I think you just answered it, is that I don't think anybody is so concerned. I mean, like you said, everybody sneezes and that happens. It's just the extreme situation that if her child is in a class and a kid is sneezing the entire class period, obviously something's going on, and you would hope that the teacher would send the kid to the health suite or something, because as Allison and the previous caller said, is like, yes, you can get it. I work at a state facility where we all get vaccinated, and I get tested every week, and we always have people who are vaccinated who show up positive. So it happens. And I just think that as long as the teacher and administration stay on top of the extreme cases of where people obviously can tell that a child is not feeling well, that they need to be sent to the health suite or something.
Yeah.
Just so, yes. So that's all I was just, I don't think anybody is like, oh, we got to shut everything down and have people fall behind, educationally. We don't want that to happen. But just those, I work in a school too, and we're constantly telling the kids to keep the mask up. So I know it's difficult.
Yeah. And we're all trying and doing our best for sure. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And you realize sneezing is not a common symptom of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I think I'm hearing that if there's something specific happening in the class because of a high degree of concern about where we are health-wise, making sure that we're responding appropriately. And I can assure you that that's what we need to do. And if there's something that you're sensing or hearing otherwise, I would just appreciate if you let us know so that we can address it. And Ms. Mitchell, no one is disparaging virtual learning. that is not it at all. Because our teachers did a fantastic, and teachers across the nation did a fantastic job when we had to pivot. And so that's not at all what this conversation is about. I think the root of the root, and I've said it often, is that there is a feeling of uncertainty because we're in a pandemic and we're all trying to figure out what is that comfort level of all of us coming back, and there are lots of considerations that we're trying to keep in play and be respectful of as we're moving back and becoming a community again that is with each other every day. So we just need everyone's support and help in doing that. All right, I see, is it Nafki? Did I say that correctly? I'm sorry if I didn't. Yes.
Hi, sorry about that. Oh, I thought I put my video on. I'm sorry. I should know how to do this by now. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
My son is a 9th grader, and so this is a twofold question. One, the biggest concern that we had about entering Wooten, although it has a wonderful reputation in terms of the performance of the students, was the high the competitiveness of the school and the pressure that students put on themselves and peer-to-peer. And I mean, for example, growing up, like, it was unheard of to be doing an AP class as a freshman, but it seems to be par for the course now. So maybe I'm just too old. but I just wanted to understand from what Wooten is doing in terms of anxiety, stress, and depression, and to sort of watch out for that, and trying to level set students so that they are also focusing on their social emotional well-being, and ensuring that they are whole, and not that grades and thinking about college all the time, that they're obsessing about that too. Like, high school ought to be a fun learning experience where they're learning about themselves outside of trying to get into the best college too. So I wanted to understand how Wooten has been determining some strategies around that to try to assuage some of the issues that been encountered in the past.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. That is a constant concern that we have as well in promoting a well-rounded and the wellness of the whole child, and not just one particular aspect of our children. And I would say a couple of things. I think that there have been a lot more programming that are directed towards wellness and around how mental health in particular. We have counseling lessons that are implemented over the course of the school year, ranging from signs of suicide to other mental health kinds of very targeted kinds of lessons for our children, personal body safety, just a lot of things in that regard in terms of how our children are doing. We certainly approach the year with an understanding that our children have come back from a very, very disruptive and challenging time. We took a survey at the end of last year with our children about what are their concerns about coming back, and many of them indicated it's the rigors of school coming back after being away for so long, and our teachers indicated the same thing. So to specifically direct that, we added an advisory prior to in the 2019-2020 school year. We had a wellness period that rotated throughout the week, and during that that wellness period. They could get help, they could have a time to catch up, they could just sit with their friends and chat. We also have a program called Wellness Warriors, and that is a student-led program where they help us with our advisory lessons. But the wellness period that we established in the 2019-2020 school year was very well received. And we also took a lot of data from the virtual environment, where the Wednesdays where they had a different schedule and it was a little bit more downtime was also appreciated. So we really tried to incorporate that. So this year we do a daily homeroom advisory. It's 30 minutes between fourth period or after fourth period. So that children can have a chance to reset during that time. At least twice a week, we're doing some sort of social emotional learning. We've done mindfulness. We've done, how extracurriculars, go back and see a friend. So we try to do some activities that remind them that school is more than the academics, and it's important to have balance. And we also look towards our wellness warriors, our children, to tell us what is it that we can do to help with that anxiety and that feeling of whatever they're feeling. And I would also say that, and we also do some wellness things. In October, we have the PSAT and SAT. We'll have a wellness day at the end of that where they'll pick activities to go and explore and do it. And so we'll change the bell schedule for that day. So there's a lot that we try to do to incorporate wellness. We talk about it a great deal in the school. And with our children during registration time, we'll talk about the appropriate balance of taking courses and not having too much. And even still, with all of that, there are challenges, and so we try to address it globally. We try to address it specifically and time some of our activities to also mirror what's happening over the course of during that quarter, so that we're having information around interim times, just different points where we know those are points of particular stress. And then, of course, we move into some individual counseling for children who need it with their counselors, and making sure that if some of the regular protocols we use, if that is not enough, then there are some other components to that we can also incorporate. So I hope that's answering your question, in terms of what our approach is and how we've tried to incorporate wellness throughout the school day, and making sure that we're getting feedback from our children regarding how they're doing and what other programs we can bring into the school to help make them, feel more whole.
No, those are wonderful, wonderful strategies. Are you seeing the impact on the level of anxiety and stress then that students?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, you are? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Can
better.
you hear me now? Okay. So those are great strategies, and I'm glad the school has implemented them. I'm just wondering, have you seen what have the impacts been from those strategies in terms of mental health issues and addressing attempted suicide or ideation? Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So our surveys are usually whole school. We still have, crisis intervention. We still have some children who are struggling very much with some mental health concerns. And so I can't give you the data specifically on, how many times, we are referring to the crisis center, but we certainly are for suicidal ideation or something of that nature. But, our students come to us with a range, right? And so I can tell you that, in our survey data around how students are feeling in class and in school, we're starting to see a trend because we're asking these questions. We ask them every year. We're starting to see a trend of where they're feeling, that they're part of a school community, that they have extracurriculars, they have friends, they have a trusted adult. They are, they're very happy with the wellness and being able to have some time during the day. And I think that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback we received before we implemented the wellness periods, is that they just felt pressed for time. And again, coming back from a very different schedule last year where they had, hour-long classes, and then coming back to an 8 period, we really thought the best thing that we can do is give more time. And we'll do a survey at the end of the first quarter to talk specifically about the homeroom advisory, how that's going, and what else is possibly, what else we could possibly do to support. But we certainly also keep our eye on our children who need some more support and are reporting to us that we need to continue the level of support at a higher level.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I see Nicole A. has her hand up.
Hi, Ms. Bolden, can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Hi, I would like to review the social justice material that's being taught to our students. Is that on the website, or can you provide it to us?
We have, I can certainly put the restorative justice model for the school and for all of the schools that we're using, and I can certainly put that on our website.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Let me make that note. Are there any other, I see the question. Yes, that my kids sit right next to the AC and requested that their teachers speak louder. Let's see, back is needed. My question, drop in people. I'm sorry, hold on, let me back up. I saw one question regarding the speaking louder because of the mask, and I'll put that note to our teachers to make sure that they can hear and do a sound check over the course of the period. I think that's a good one. And if there is a specific area that is still of concern, if you could just reach out to the teacher and just say that they're having a hard time hearing the student, or hearing your students are having a hard time, they will adjust volume. Ms. Berman, I see your hand.
Good morning. Thank you for having this. It's been very helpful and informative. So we heard through the grapevine that the teachers were told to go easy on the kids for homework. And I'm just wondering how long that's going to last, because it's been awesome. And we're a ninth grade family. So the introduction back into things has been nice. So just wondering how long that's going to last.
Well, we're hoping to continue it as long as we can. And really what we're asking is, is to really just take stock of where our students are and what it is that they need. And that needs to be ongoing in terms of, the assignments of work and that pace and volume, and really being thoughtful about asking questions of, how long did it take you to do that assignment, and getting that feedback. And so we're hoping that, that it's not just at the beginning of the quarter thing, but it's certainly a struggle, right? In terms of, having our 9 weeks and all of the classes starting at the same time, wrapping up at the same time. So assignments seem to pile on at the same time. But I really appreciate that comment, so that we can continue through our leadership team to discuss homework and assignments in general, and making sure that we're being responsive to where our students are and what they need, and having that time built in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go, let's see, I see Dr. Glaser, and then I see Elisa's iPhone 11. If we could take it in that order.
I just wanted to publicly acknowledge and thank Ms. Bolden for her efforts of getting Latin 3 and 4 back at Wooten, since I think it's a tremendous course offering for the kids. They got a great teacher, and it just has caused so much positivity, I think, for the children that were able to continue with that class. So I don't know what you did, but I do appreciate everything you did to bring that to Wooten, and have Latin, advanced Latin is something that Wooten takes a lot of pride in.
Thank you very much. And I it always hurts my heart when, things are, we're trying to finagle with staffing. So I really appreciate your advocacy, Dr. Glaser. And I appreciate the fact that Mr. Sassy is with us and we're able to offer that for our children. That is always the goal. So thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Alyssa's iPhone 11.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good. I'm Elisa Rudolph. My daughter is in 10th grade. I will say I'm having a very different experience regarding the homework that I see with my daughter. And I'm just conveying my perspective that we're seeing. I have my daughter is in an AP class, AP US History, and the rest are honors classes. I think it's a pretty rigorous workload. And her stress level is high. really high. So if homework is light for some, it is not in my house. I can tell you that much. And if my daughter's friends, it seems like the level of stress is high all around. Because sometimes I'll check in with my friends and I'll say, what's going on at home? Because my daughter's, stressed, and they'll say to me, we're totally stressed in this house. So I just didn't want it to be a commentary that maybe, homework is light and that's what's going on, because I had to chime in on that because stress is high in this house. And my daughter is finding it hard having a balance of having a social life and in sports and academics are very important to her. Yeah. And admittedly, to piggyback on somebody else's comment before, she does think about college. I'm like, stop thinking about college right now. I wish we would stop thinking about it. But it is very important to her that she thinks about wanting to be in a good college and work really hard. But I know the other night she was up till about 1:30 in the morning, which I do not approve of, but she just felt like she needed to do more. She did have soccer that day too, so that's, it's hard, but I just, she's coping. She's she's a tough kid and she does, she gets it done, but stress is high. So, and I just, and from the friends that she has, it seems like stress is high there as well. So maybe depending on, maybe for the 9th graders or maybe for certain, classes, I don't know, maybe homework is better. But I just wanted to put it out there that we're not all having that experience.
It's not universal. Right?
No, it's tension is high. Tension and stress is high. So many tests. Yeah. So many tests. And my daughter even said to me the other day, Mom, she said, I want you to know, she goes, I really studied for chem, but I don't know if I gave it all I could have because I have so much other work going on. So I'm doing my best. And that's all, as I said to her, it's all I can ask of you. Mm-hmm. So I said, you're not getting anything else from me to say that. I know that she's working hard. So, but I had to put that out there that
yeah, I really appreciate you do, because, it is, I think that we want to, it's an individual situation, but at the same time, we are a school that there's a lot of stress and a lot of, academic rigor, and it's coming in the form of homework sometimes too, in places that causes that stress. So I assure you that I've heard both sides of it, and I assure you that we are making sure that we're figuring out the homework balance. It's tricky and it's challenging, to say the least. But
and we are a competitive school for sure, and a competitive environment. I won't deny. I did say to her, I said, what would you think about dropping down, from an AP class to an honors? Is that something you'd want to consider? And she said, absolutely not. She wants to do her workload. So, but it's still stressful. So I know that's a choice of my daughter. Absolutely. But it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm also going to ask if you are feeling okay, if you can give that note to her teachers directly too, and her counselor. My daughter was up until 1:30 at night, because sometimes we just need a little, we need to just kind of get that direct feedback to the teacher. So that would be helpful. As a school, we're continuing to figure out how do we strike that balance, and it's hard. Yeah. It's very hard. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just appreciate being able to give that commentary. I just felt like I needed to add that perspective in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Euler.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for this. And I'm so glad I was able to redo my work schedule so I could hop on to one of these finally. And thank you guys for all you're doing at Wooten. I mean, I know you guys are literally just flexing constantly with all the new information that you guys get, and it's greatly appreciated. But I do want to echo Elisa's remarks. Like, our son is literally, and I mean, it's his own doing. He decided to take 4 AP classes. But I think after the past 18 months of things, and how that was, that, being up every day until midnight, 1:30 doing work is not very effective or healthy. And I get, you know, the drive to succeed and do your best and want to be, you know, the best version of yourself. But it's a lot. And, you know, it's our son's senior year, and he feels like last year was, you know, we did the best we could, but it was a hard year for juniors, as you know, as it was for anyone else. And I think he feels like he needs to make this up. And, you know, he did drop one AP class to an honors class just because I was like, you need to do something, like you can't continue this. And so he did. But I think across the board, like it's a lot of work, and there's a, you know, he has no time to do sports or anything because he comes home, he unpacks his lunch and he does homework, and he comes and eats dinner, and then he goes back and does homework. So, and I know we have a daughter who's a freshman, and she has one AP class, and it's a big jump from middle school to high school to begin with. And I think last year being virtual and jumping back into like whatever this new normal is really hard for them. And it's a huge adjustment. And I think we need to give them a little more grace. And even though they're extremely resilient, and I don't know how they all did what they did. So kudos to all you parents and all you teachers and administrators for the last 18 months, because, oh my gosh, you guys rock. It's just really hard for them at a really hard point in their growth. Like being a teen and a tween it's just not easy nowadays. And I don't know if we can lighten that homework a little bit, it would be awesome, so that they can have a really good balance across the board after last year.
I hear you. I hear you. I do. And I promise you, we're trying to figure out and making lots of adjustments. I think similarly for our students, our teachers are trying to understand, you know, where our students are coming in and making adjustments, and we'll continue to do so. I think that is the promise that I can make you, is that we're continuing to see, you know, what adjustments and what works, you know, and globally what we're doing, and also individually. I'm really proud of us that we also try to respond individually to children's needs as well, so that we understand what each student and what each of our children needs to, you know, be and feel successful in every way, not just academically.
I appreciate that. And do you know, because I know our daughter had like 3 tests in one day. Do you guys still have that policy where if you have multiple tests,
if a child has more than 2 tests, they can move the 3rd test?
Can that be reiterated to the freshman class?
Yes, I'm going to reiterate that to the freshmen, and I'm sending out a communication to parents so that they're also aware. I apologize. I realized I got that question before. And
my son and I both told my daughter that, and she like didn't. She's like, no, that's not. And I'm
no,
like,
I will put that out again. I apologize that I haven't put it out before, but yes, and it'll be reiterated to teachers as well. And I think we took it up at our leadership team to remind staff and teachers that when we did away with testing days, this was our new way of making sure that if a child has more than 2, we are asking that the child approach the teachers to say, I have 2 tests, can I reschedule this? And if they need help with that, counselors can help, all of that. But we do want the student to be able to say to their teacher, I have a test, and then that can be rearranged. But I will make sure that we put that out. And in general, if there is something that you know, that we can help to facilitate because a child is feeling overwhelmed by all the things that they have to do, then we certainly invite you to help us to do that, so that we can make those adjustments, so that they're not being overburdened. But I will put out clear communication to everyone so that they're aware that is the policy. And then Mr. Shapiro, I saw your hand up for a while there. I apologize for that.
Hi, Dr. Bolden. How are you?
I'm a Miss Bolden. I didn't have that doctor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Bolden.
No, it's always a reminder that I need to do that next.
I appreciate everything you and the teachers are doing. My wife's an elementary school teacher, so she's in a classroom in a Churchill Cluster Elementary with no kids vaccinated. So there's some very interesting things when children start sneezing or coughing and protocols. And you'd be surprised, the administrators are quite proactive. If they suspect a child could, about making sure they go down to the health room and be, sent home, and whether they need to be tested or not. So I do feel, at least in the elementary schools, at least my wife's elementary school, have been very good about that. Maybe erring on the side of caution. But my point about, jumping in is, I hear a lot of parents talking about AP classes, and my son does not handle, he's a 10th grader. He doesn't handle stress well. And he came home to me and he said, Dad, I love my US history class. He's in honors. I'm not sure if I should take the AP class. I feel like the class right now is pretty easy. I'm getting through my work in honors history. And I said to him, well, Darren, you've got to, realize there's going to be a lot more of a time commitment if you go to AP US history. You have to decide if you want to make that commitment. You know how much stress you can deal with. So he decided in the end to stay where he is. So that's one thing I would share. The other thing is, we have an unwritten rule that we cut off both our middle school son and our older son from doing homework beyond a certain time, because there's just a law of diminishing returns. And I really feel for the parents when they say my child's up to 1:30. That's where we as parents need to step in and just say, okay, you can talk to the teacher, you can talk to the guidance counselor. Maybe their workload is too heavy because of the mix of classes. The other thing is, should we be worrying as parents in 10th grade or 9th grade, is my child going to get accepted into Michigan or UVA versus Connecticut or Penn State? Because guess what? We know people who are Wooten alumni that live in the Stonebridge development. Guess what? They didn't get into Michigan or UVA, and maybe they didn't get into as prestigious of schools, but they're ending up with very good jobs coming out of college, and they've had a more balanced existence in college. Not that they didn't work, but there seems to be an overemphasis on children, even in 9th and 10th grade, with an emphasis towards being accepted into prestigious schools.
Mm-hmm. I think you make some great points, and thank you very much. I think it's so important, for 9th and 10th graders in particular, is to come in and get your feet wet and figure out, what school's all about. There is time to, I think there's an important transition from 9th to, or 8th to 9th, and then one from 10th to 11th. So those 9th and 10th grade years are really formative, and being able to, your children best, and really setting in those parameters around, this is too much, need to go to bed now, and yes, you're having a great experience in the class that you're in. Enjoy, have at it, and to reinforce those messages, because I think that there is a lot of internal pressure. I think there is, and even when we're all doing our best to deliver messages of, hey, kid, go to school, do your best, and let us know how we can, and find other areas that you're going to be a happy, well-rounded individual. I think that there are always a lot of pressures across the board in terms of, colleges and all of this other stuff. So as much as we can be, those voices of reason and setting those parameters, I absolutely agree 100% with you. So well done, and well said.
Thanks.
All right. I am really not great at the chat and the questions. So if I missed something in the chat that you wanted to elevate, please just unmute, and I will make sure we know that. And let's see. I see Nicole A.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just a quick comment about listening to all this homework stuff. I really don't, I feel like children should be able to learn the information while they are at school for whatever, 6, 7, 8 hours. And that homework, I mean, for math example, do you really need 20 of the same type of question. I mean, really, it's just to reinforce the knowledge. And I find what they're doing, the teachers are doing, is they're giving out so much. And it just should be, you know, a couple things on a topic. It doesn't need to be so strenuous, because if you take 7 classes and each one has, you know, 20 questions of homework, I mean, that's the situation with people staying up late. So, I mean, can they consider the fact that this is just reinforcement? It's not their it's not their primary learning, and that they can just really do 1 or 2 questions on a topic. They don't need to make it so extreme.
Right. Fair
Thank
enough. Absolutely. Absolutely. I will take that back. That's why I love having these coffees, because, you know, again, just to be able to get some specifics and work with our team here, I really appreciate it. So thank you. Ms. Bush?
Hi, I had a question in the chat. It was about foreign language classes. They obviously build on the previous year, and I've noticed many kids are struggling this year. So the teachers seem they've noticed, and they're going back and reviewing. But I'm wondering, well, my question is, are you seeing a drop in foreign language learning? Are kids dropping it?
Dropping the class, or a drop in terms of their proficiency or where they're coming in?
Dropping the class, and as there's less kids continuing their foreign language education.
I am not seeing that necessarily. I do see that they're continuing on in their trajectory for different reasons, in terms of you know, they are continuing on, yes. They may be changing like from one language to another, but I'm not seeing you know, I see some slight trends in terms of maybe ASL is more popular than French one year, or Spanish, but overall the numbers remain consistent. I'm not sure if I answered your full question.
No, you did. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, it is 10:02. I have some takeaways here that I will be working on. And I really just want to say I so appreciate your time and coming out and having such a great exchange, not just with me, but with each other. And I think that that's what makes our partnership so great. So I really appreciate that. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, if you need to get in touch with us, please do. You know my email, and easily reached on email, or give me a call. And I look forward to seeing you all again next month. And until then, stay safe. Have a great weekend. We have a great game today, or this evening. And we have our arts tailgate that's happening prior to. We're very excited about that coming before the game. And then the PTSA has planned a college fair for next week. And so there are great things happening. I see Mr. Rabin's on the call. Mr. Rabin, did you want to say anything before we sign off, or did
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining today. It was a really great discussion, and we look forward to more of these. And yeah, the game tonight's going to be great. For those that didn't pick up their magnets with their membership, we'll be giving those out tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at the college fair if you're interested in attending on Wednesday. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. And again, a special thanks to the PTSA for setting this up and doing all the work behind to make this work. I really appreciate it. Go Patriots. And Dr. Glaser, I'll give you a call a little later today. I think I saw some questions you asked me directly, so I'll give you a call a little later today. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Miss Bolton, on the stadium is a sign from Churchill. So I don't know if you want to take it down, but it basically says Wooten kids smell like hot dog water or something.
Got it. I will take care of that. Thank you. I'll take care of that now, actually. Thank you.
Sure. It's like near where it says like James A. Cole Field or whatever it's called. But
Okay.
it was on the stadium when I dropped Jax off. So
It's going to be a spirited day today, isn't it?
I think so. I think so. I felt like I didn't need the whole coffee to, didn't need to be a whole thing, but just so you know, in case,
I always appreciate you. Thank you.
Sure.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all you do.
Oh, thank you.